until the day we were until the day so far we were listening more on to presentations, focusing on running our teams, running our clubs, and with my presentation I will change slightly the perspective, how we can actually lead effectively ourselves. And now I want to invite you to think and try to remember. Have you ever encountered a person well composed, humble, who is able to see you exactly the way you are, without projecting their insecurities, their expectations from you, just the way how you are? Think about. If you have, you know how wonderful it is to be around this kind of person. So let's keep this in mind and have it as the ideal of leading self. In my personal belief, this kind of person is someone who has full ownership of their personalities, but also they mastered the art of emotional regulation. And I'll come to this point. Purposefully, I put on my first picture, because these are not slides, sort yourself first. But what we are more familiar with is know thyself. We have it in the Bible. We know Socrates has said it in the ancient Greece. We know that it's in Asian scriptures long time ago. And then we have Sir John Whitmore in nowadays who is a doyen in leadership, who urges sort yourself, and usually I add, before go out and mess with others. But if you are curious like me, you might ask yourself, what I'm supposed to know? What should I sort out? We are complex, multidimensional human beings. We have so many levels and realms. Which one to focus? How to handle ourselves? I don't know if you ever ask yourself these questions. I usually have the tendency to do so. But if we think, and this is the perspective that I'm going to talk about today for the need of our presentation, that life, it's a series of choices to get the desired life. And sometimes, and many of us, I usually make the choices that are socially sensible, that we've been taught, that are kind of common sense. We follow the path, and two things might happen. The first one is we are really working hard to get what we want, but we don't, of some reason. And there are many reasons why we don't. And the second thing, it can be we happen to get what we want. And then we start asking the question, did I really ask for this? Do I really want to have this? So what happened here, the life choices, when we all know we are supposed to make what to study, what to work, who to marry, what hobbies to run and everything, and the desired life that most probably all of us want to be happy, what happens here in between that no matter how hard we are working, we usually are not very satisfied? Well, from my experience, our personalities happen. Nothing more. You know, we are the mountain or the obstacle on the way. And what I'm about to share with you today is something that it's kind of derived from 12 years of my personal exploration journey, but also the past 3 years I had a chance to work with many people, and some way or another we were touching these areas. In the beginning, I told you that I'm going to make some two statements, and I'll clarify the point. The first statement from my perspective for this presentation is that life is a never-ending process of decision making. What to eat, what time to get up, whether to exercise, what to wear, am I peaced with someone, so on, so on. It's constant. It's never ending. And I assume that it goes till the end like that. But if you remember what Brett said earlier in his presentation, was the emotional center involved in the decision making. And we already have plenty of research that proves that decision making is impossible without our emotions. No matter how logical, how sensible, how reasonable, how mathematical they are just not possible because they are run in the emotional center, which is our limbic brain. How they figure out, just to give you a proof, neurologists who were dealing with patients with brain traumas noticed that those who have the biggest injuries in their limbic brain or the emotional center became completely indecisive. They weren't able to make simple choices. And the worst of all, it wasn't possible to relearn. Because if you go back, you'll remember that learning is also in the emotional center of the brain. So if we go back to the life is a never-ending process of decision making and emotions are involved, my second statement is that emotional regulation is a must for our thriving life. But let's have a look about these areas, which in kind of without pretension to be complete idea of our multidimensional self, are few areas that usually we go back and check and work on to improve our lives. And here I just want to clarify, I'm going to talk only about this second circle where the values, meaning, belief system. The other one, where the behaviors, boundaries, relations, I just put it to make the contrast that this is about our inner life and this is the projection externally. So what are relationships, what are habits, goals, and everything, it's a projection of our internal life. So let's start from values. Values, actually we need to start with the questions. As earlier Brett said that sometimes this was Lena, that we need to feel pain to change. And usually to start asking these questions, what do I know about myself? And how do I feel about myself? Usually it takes crisis. Or there are some very lucky people who have this ingrained in their maturity process. I personally I wasn't one of them. It took an existential crisis to go all along the way so I can learn more. These two questions are usually in the realm of self-esteem, self-worth, and self-confidence. They all have slight different meanings and really depends how a person perceives themselves. But it starts from there. Who am I, right? And then we jump here on the second curve. We start with values. Values we know in Toastmasters are service, excellence, integrity, respect. So we are aware what are the values. But if right now I ask you, write down your core values, most probably what you write down are your acquired values or your wishful values. If you haven't done any thoughtful, deliberate process of discovering your core values. There is nothing wrong with the acquired values. They helped us make it through life, relating with others, and it's okay. But the importance of knowing our core values is because whenever we are aligning our behavior accordingly, there is no mistake. And even when life is super hard and difficult, we are not giving up because we are aligned with the very essence of our being. This is the values. The next one is meaning. Many of you maybe heard it, purpose. Find your purpose in life and everything will be great. I personally have a conflict with purpose. I agree that there are people who are lucky to have calling. And I'm really envy to them to have this calling. Most of us need to figure it out. Why I have purpose as a conflict? Because it sounds that it's something that you need to dig out and figure out, and it's given and you need to accomplish. Instead of that, I prefer to focus on meaning. And meaning is fluid and it changes. It changes through different areas of stages of our life, different situations, and it's in the circle of our influence. What we are giving meaning to, what is important for us. Do you think that any of us has a purpose to be an awesome Toastmaster? I don't think so. But most probably, most of us found the meaning to be in Toastmasters because we can grow. And this makes sense, right? Then I'll jump to emotional needs. And emotional needs, I discovered, is something that people often mess up with core values. They are not the same. And I want to explicitly emphasize it. And if core values is something that's so deeply embedded in ourselves, they never change. But emotional needs are changing. Changing with life, changing with age, changing with life situations. Emotional needs are the ones to be blamed with all the conditions we are setting for ourselves. When I build this house, I'll start this family. When I find the best partner, I'll be happy. When I finally get the salary that I deserve, I'll do this and that. You know, all this conditioning, it's coming from our emotional needs. And if you think about under this conditioning that we are setting for ourselves, for example, to have the salary that I want, there is an emotional need for independence. There might be an emotional need for power or dominance, and it's okay. Why it's important to know our emotional needs? Because when we know our emotional needs, we can articulate them properly, and they are essential for our relationships, especially when we are working with others. For example, I have a very strong need for clarity and predictability. It is how I function, and I need to find a way how I'm articulating it to the people that I'm working with, so to be easier for me to do my job. So defining these emotional needs, it's essential for ourselves to make sure that these needs will be met. And second, once our needs are met, we are more open to meet others' needs. You know, because we never can be empathetic and compassionate from a place of frustration. This is impossible. If our needs are continuously violated and they are met, we are unsatisfied, disappointed, and we want to remove ourselves from the place where our needs are not met. And actually, if you think about deeply unmet emotional needs, it's the most important reason why people are separating. Because we are not satisfied. And in a long term, this is really difficult. Then we go to strengths. And you might wonder why I put strength there, not skills or capabilities or competences. Strength as a concept, working with strengths, come from positive psychology. And positive psychology explicitly says we are not working with strengths and weaknesses, how usually there is this SWOT analysis we are using in business. And there is a very simple reason why. Because weaknesses means we are lacking something. Something is not there. There is a gap, there is a void that we need to overcome to get what we want. And because if you remember again Brett's presentation about the threat and reward, when our brain registers that something is missing, it means that this is a threat, that it's a danger. And we start producing hormones that are actually preventing us from learning. That's why positive psychology focuses explicitly on strengths. And weaknesses are not called weaknesses, but areas of development. And once we build on our strengths, and I'm talking about not the qualifications and the competencies that we develop through our studies and work, but these very strengths that every one of us have, and these are usually the strengths that most of us cannot name because they're so ingrained in our personalities. But positive psychology proves that once we focus on the strengths and we build on them, then it's much easier from a place of confidence to focus on the areas of development. And then the whole effort makes sense. And I'm jumping to the belief system. I purposefully left this one in the end. Here I would like to give you a metaphor. If you imagine that yourself is a beautiful big building, a beautiful one, stable, rooted, grounded. Imagine that your values are the foundation of this building. Without your core values, not the acquired, this building cannot be stable. And to be honest, with your core values, the building would be the one that you want to live in, right? And then imagine your belief system as the construction that keeps the whole thing aligned and stable. And our belief systems comes from family, from culture, from generation. Later in life, we are able to form our beliefs, and so on and so on. So the values are the foundation, and the belief system is our construction. And now imagine you are walking around your beautiful building, and bam, you are hitting your head in a timber. Then you see a very beautiful space that you want to enter, bam, you are hitting in a column just on the entrance. And you go around, and at some point you ask, damn it, who put those here? And actually, this is a very good question, because those are our limiting beliefs. Let it sink. All all the obstacles that you are facing one way or another along your life journey are the limiting beliefs. Most of them are not created by you. They come from your family, from your cultural background, from some other external circumstances. They are not yours. But later in life, when we accumulate more and more experiences, we start thinking, I did this, it was tough, it was dangerous. No, I'm not going to do it anymore. But limiting beliefs is the very essence of the obstacle preventing us of unfolding our potential. And now I'll tell you how to recognize them. You know, I'm sure that I'm not the only one who hears voices in my head.
You are.
You all have it. You all have it. You know, this is the inner talk. You know, if you grab a pen and paper and just set a time of your time to observe your inner talk and your kind of inner work, and start observing thoughts that are should, shouldn't, haven't, mustn't. I'm too, you can continue it. I cannot, you can continue it. I'm afraid, others will, as good as, and some derivatives of this. You got the point. These are limiting beliefs. All of them. And I would agree that some of them are really reasonable and they have their space in our personalities. No matter what, they are limiting beliefs. And some way along the way, they will stop us. You know? I'm too young, I'm too old, it's too late, I cannot do it, I should do this and that. You know, this is tough. And when I work with my clients, always, but always in my one-to-one coaching, we touch the limiting beliefs. And you know, I told you about this inner talk that is going on the top of your head. And this is easy to figure out. But you need to keep in mind that there are another limiting beliefs that are so deeply ingrained in yourself that it takes deliberate work to be discovered. And if you remember my second picture with the life choices and desired life, what happens when I told you when we are working really hard but not getting what we want, these are our very deep limiting beliefs. And there is a very nice model that can be used, but it takes of us to be very, very honest. And it is like, goes like that. Ask yourself, what I want to do, what I really want to do. Then ask yourself again, what I'm doing, actually. And then ask again, what is the reason why I'm doing something different than what I want to do? It takes peeling out, but usually at the bottom of these limiting beliefs, it can be shame, it can be fear, it can be a very, very strong emotion. And it can be, you know, most of us have the fear of failure, but believe it or not, a lot of people have fear of success. So we need to keep this in mind, right? But this is all about the belief system in a nutshell, because every one of these areas deserves really a deep exploration and finding out what works for us. So I invite you at some point or another just to ask yourself questions around these topics and see what actually is the foundation of my habits. What is the reason that I do what I do? Or why I'm setting this kind of goals? Do I really want to set those kind of goals? Or the boundaries? Do I have the emotional space to thrive? Do I have my healthy boundaries established? You know, or relationships and mind. But here the relationship, I mean, it first starts with the most important relationship, the relationship with ourselves. You know, the way how we are related with ourselves affects all other relationships. Is it loving one or it's a judgmental one? What is it? This is in a nutshell, and because I made this statement that life is a never-ending decision making, what we can do actually about the second statement, emotional regulation. Emotional regulation, and I really want to emphasize here, does not have gender, right? Emotional needs, emotionality, and everything connected with emotional center does not have gender. We all have emotions, we all have emotional needs, and we all can learn to emotionally regulate. This is no doubt. So there are many very different approaches, techniques and models how we can emotionally regulate. Of course, if you are curious to explore. I usually focus on this 3-step model that I found it in cognitive therapy some time ago, many years ago, and I found it very useful both for myself and working with others. How it goes: get rid of petty annoyances. Petty annoyances or energy drains. And you know, this is the very first assignment I give to our new clients when I start working with them, especially if we are working on life-work balance. I ask them, make a list of everything that annoys you, but everything, just a list. I'm not asking to make any actions, just a list, make a list. And you know, funny thing, maybe a couple of weeks ago, I was working with a group on a similar topic, and I asked them, make a very short list of your petty annoyances. 2 of them jumped straight away. It was just on the tip of their tongue. You know, they were impatient to start, right? But most of them were like, start thinking, start doubting. Do you know why? Because once we find a way to articulate our annoyances or energy drains, it gives message to the brain that we need to act upon it. And this is tough, because some of the compromises that we are doing are hard. So we really need to be very, very honest with ourselves. And petty annoyances can be a toxic boss, uncollaborative colleague, long commute, cluttered wardrobe, tipping faucet, you know, everything, you know. And here I'll just share from personal experience. When I first did this 12 years ago, I made, and I'm ashamed to say it, but I made a list of 120 things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you remember what was on the list?
How does it feel? Yeah, I was just compromising for many, many, many years. And it was piling. Yeah. But my point here, and that's why I ask people to make this list of petty annoyances or energy drains, is that if we are not psychopaths or sociopaths, we have the tendency when something is not going right in our lives to blame ourselves. You know? Usually it's like that. I don't know why, but we just take the responsibility. But our energy, that Lena said in the beginning, it's a limited amount in our body. And when we have all these annoyances and drains to drain our energy, what is left in the end? Just the drops, just a tiny bit of our energy that we actually can invest in something that is meaningful for us. So the first one, get rid of petty annoyances. The second one, practice self-soothing. And with practice self-soothing, I mean everything that serves you to relax your nervous system. You know, and it can be various of activities. It can be singing, writing, walking, training, you name it. You know it much better than the rest what suits your nerves. Toastmasters, of course, public speaking, of course. You know, I have recently the impression that, at least from in my social media, I'm attacked from everywhere with athletics and stuff. I do a lot of sport, you know, I do a lot of sport. But I have the feeling that somehow we are all supposed to be athletes. We are not. And it's not always possible for every one of us to be an athlete. For example, I teach you, don't feel the social pressure that you need to be athletic, a musician, or a amazing public speaker, or whatever. You find yours. And you know it much better than the others, and whomever tells you to do. And the third one is give yourself compassion. And if you think about this, maybe it's the most difficult one. It's kind of easy to be compassionate towards others. But when we need to be compassionate to ourselves, it's kind of tough. We have this inner critic in our mind, like, go there, do more, be better, you know, you don't deserve. We have all these inner talks in our head, and we want to get rid of it, you know. That's why it's difficult to be compassionate. What I truly believe is that knowing the 5 areas of our inner life raise our awareness of our personalities and help us understand ourselves. Understanding is the foundation for self-compassion. And I mean the self-belief, the limiting beliefs or other things that are coming on your way. This is the ability to say, I know you are there, I respect you, but I'm not going to leave you to lead the show. How powerful is that? And then you have full ownership of your personality. Knowing the shadows in yourself, but not letting them run the show. And most probably we are about to wrap up. Most probably now you are thinking, this is all good, but this sounds like another job that I am supposed to do. Yes, and it takes effort, and it's a lot of work. But what we do, we practice when life is easy. So when tough times come, we are prepared and we are ready to face them. Think it like preparing for a speech. You write the speech, you edit the speech, you rehearse and deliver. It's the same with practice emotional regulation. You explore, test and adjust, rehearse but delivery this time will be to life itself. And with this, I will leave you with your thoughts. Thank you.